Hello friends and welcome to a special episode of Popcorn Podcast where we sit down to talk to legendary voice actor Bill Farmer ahead of Metro Comic Con in Melbourne. I'm Timmy Flan, movie buff.
And I'm Leigh Livingstone, entertainment journalist.
And we love to talk all things movies.
We do. Now, if you're not familiar, Metro Comic Con brings some of the most exciting names in pop culture to Australia for a weekend filled with exclusive panels, artist showcases, collectibles, and cosplay fun. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you know the score. You know what a Comic Con is. This year's Metro Comic Con sees Guardian of the Galaxy Pom Klementif, Superman Brandon Ruth, Family Guy Patrick Warburton, voiceover legend Bill Farmer, and Bridgerton bad girl Jessica Madsen in town, along with many others, to meet fans and take them behind the scenes of some of their favourite films, comics, animations, and TV series.
I have massive FOMO because we're obviously in Sydney.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to go to Melbourne for the weekend. Do you want to come?
Yeah, I want to go to Melbourne, but does anyone really want to go to Melbourne?
Okay. The turf war rages on between Sydney and Melbourne. We don't want to offend anyone, or maybe we do.
Look, it's such a city for culture, though. I mean,
it is.
It's the home of culture, so it's perfect that Metro Comic Con is held there.
I couldn't agree more. Now, we are absolutely delighted to welcome Bill Farmer to Popcorn Podcast, the modern man behind Disney icon that is Goofy.
Farmer has been the official voice of Goofy since 1987. That's almost 4 decades,
wow,
which is unheard of for a voice actor to voice one character for that long.
It really is. Gosh, what an impressive period of time.
It really is. And while the clumsy, good-natured former Dippy Dog, as he was first known, keeps the voice actor very busy, Farmer has also voiced the likes of Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, and Foghorn Leghorn in the original Space Jam film, as well as Pluto and Stinkie in some of the Casper films.
You know, my niece calls one of my cousins Stinkie. So I just, whenever I hear Stinkie, I'm like, oh, that's Nate. Well, so Farmer is here to talk walking in the big boots of a Disney favorite and how he helped turn him into a film trailblazer. He shares stories of memorable fan encounters, which is absolutely beautiful, and gives us one hell of a goofy holler.
That goofy holler, I loved it. So good. Let's take a listen.
Morning, son. Dad.
Welcome to Australia, Bill. Thanks for agreeing to chat with us today on Popcorn Podcast. We're delighted to have you here. Have you been to Australia before?
Yeah, this is actually, I believe, my 10th. It's been a number of years, but I've been to all the major cities as far away as Perth and Cairns and Brisbane,
wow,
Adelaide, but it's always fun. And Melbourne is my favorite, actually.
And is that for Comic Cons that you've come down here for those events?
For MetroCon this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And it's kind of nice to get away from the heat in Los Angeles. In Fahrenheit, it's well over 100 degrees. So it's nice to have chilly days and a little bit of rain. So nice too.
We hope you get some nice weather too. Now, you've been doing this a really long time, but take us through some of the characters that you're most responsible for these days.
My longest running character and probably my greatest one is Walt Disney's Goofy and Pluto, which I've both been doing for the last 37 years.
Wow.
And no one else has ever, filled in for me. So I may be the longest running cartoon character in at least the Disney world and maybe in all of cartoondom. And of course, Goofy, Pluto, Horse Collar. Of the traditional Seven Dwarves, I'm Sleepy. We did a series called the 7D where I was Doc, a show that's on Disney Plus called Amphibia. We did 3 seasons of that. I play a character named Hop Pop and did about 40 or 50 ancillary characters in those series. I've done about 3,000 shows now for Disney over the last 38 years, and Warner Brothers and many other Illumination movies, and a lot of the classic movies, Beauty and the Beast, Toy Story 2, Bugs Life, Monsters, Inc., all sorts of things.
An incredible career. It sounds like we need to get the Guinness World Records on the phone to check that longest voice actor stat.
Yeah, I have to check my IMDb internet database to find out what I've done.
Yeah, but Goofy's keeping you pretty busy though.
Gosh, yeah. I always bring him with me wherever I go. Yeah, he's my favorite, and was as a kid too. He was my favorite Disney character, and I'm so thankful that I was able to win that audition. And it's been the gift that keeps giving all these 37
Yeah.
years. Still working on new projects all the time, and I have a big thing next week. Actually, I am performing live for the first time ever on the Hollywood Bowl stage, which is a big stage. Doing a concert with Jodie Benson from A Little Mermaid, Susan Egan from Hercules, a lot of Broadway stars on the music from Disney movies from the 80s and 90s. So
Wow.
this will be a very, for me to sing on stage in front of an audience of about 17,000 people doing a song from a Goofy movie.
Wow. Did you perform the song in the movie?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I did.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
way back almost 30 years ago. 1995 is when a Goofy movie came out. And
Yeah.
still, fans at Comic Cons around the world, it's the number one thing people ask me about and want to know about is a Goofy movie.
I mean, people might not realize this, but Goofy was actually the first Disney classic character to get his own full-length feature film.
That's true. It is a Goofy movie. I did a series in the early 90s called Goof Troop. And originally, a Goofy movie was supposed to be a Goof Troop movie, as there was a DuckTales movie and then a DuckTales the series. It was supposed to be based on our television series, but it took a life of its own in script writing and became this buddy-buddy picture and a fan favorite. And it's as popular now, if not more so, than it was when it came out. And every Comic Con I go to, one of the main questions is, tell us about a Goofy movie. Thank you for giving me your childhood. Now they're old enough that they usually say, when I was young, I sided with Max's point of view. And as I got older and got kids, now I understand what Goofy was talking about. So it's full circle.
And you understand the clumsiness as you get older as well.
Absolutely.
Now, when you first chased your dream to LA back in the 80s, one of your first gigs, as you mentioned, was Goofy. Did you ever imagine that you would be taking over one of the most iconic characters Disney has ever created straight off the bat to start your career?
No, it was totally serendipitous. I was a stand-up comic impressionist out of Dallas, Texas. And on the advice of an agent and my wife, we moved to California to see what would happen in Hollywood. And I finally got an audition where they said, do you do any of the Disney characters? At the time, there were 4 or 5 Mickeys, Donalds, Goofies, and they wanted to settle on one voice. So there was always that same voice that you heard. And out of about 1,000 people that tried out, they picked me. What a lot of people don't know is that there's no contract that says you will now be the voice of Goofy from now on. Every job still is a new contract. So you're as good as your last performance. And I've only done about 3,000 of those now. So I think I've got the job.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an achievement to be doing that one voice for so long, because voice actors tend to be sort of session players, if you like, don't they? We're just coming in for any job and doing any voice.
That is exactly the way it is now. I have a contract for every single cartoon I do. And with Screen Actors Guild, you get to do 3 voices for the price of one. So they'll always say, Bill, you're the talking tree. You're the hot dog vendor. And you've got to come up with a new voice on the spot and just throw it in, whether he sounds like this, whatever. You just have to find a voice very quickly for these characters. And I've done about over 50 voices in various series, incidental that you wouldn't recognize, but I get in there.
What is it about voice work that you enjoy so much?
You get to play. It is the freeingest, most free kind of acting you can do, really, because, they give you a picture of a talking frog and they'll say, okay, what would this guy sound like? And you have to think, okay, I don't know. What's he like? Is he angry? Is he sad? Is he a happy kind of character? Goofy's such a happy-go-lucky character. And I had a voice print before that. Goofy came out in 1932. I picked it up in 1987. And so, gosh, all I had to do was do what I knew that Goofy sounded like. And they liked it. And so there was a big footprint to kind of help you along. Whereas a lot of characters, you have to invent them and hopefully that the producers of the television show like it. It's a new challenge each day and it's a lot of fun. And during COVID, I had to record everything from my home studio and with my son, who is an audio engineer and a professional drummer. and he's become my engineer. So I don't have to go to the studio anymore. I just walk down the hall. It's much easier.
How good is that? And speaking of challenges, it must also be challenging to inhabit an existing character that is just so beloved. Was there a pressure in the beginning to make him sound exactly like Pinto Colvig, who obviously originated the voice? And how much
Yeah.
are you able to put your own stamp on Goofy?
Over the years, I've been able to put a lot more of me into Goofy. Originally, it was a voice match. I got a cassette tape of the original Pinto Colvig. I had to do the same lines and then do some new lines and see if I could still sound like Pinto. So it was a voice match in the beginning. But as years go by, you kind of get to add a little piece of yourself to these characters. And especially in a Goofy movie where he'd never had to be kind of sad before. He'd never had to be a worried father before. You had to add layers of humanity to this kind of silly character and make it still sound like Goofy. That was the challenge of that movie. And I think we succeeded in that, as it became, a fan favorite among all the things that I've done. And still to this day is obviously very, very in the know. Next year will be 30 years since it came out. And as I say, it's still as popular as ever.
It's definitely an iconic one from my childhood. And maybe you can shed some light on this, since you do both voices. Why is it that Goofy is anthropomorphic and can talk, but Pluto is a dog in the more traditional sense? Is there a reasoning behind that?
I get that a lot. Pluto he's a regular dog. He was originally he wasn't a golden retriever. He was a bloodhound, one of a pair of bloodhounds in a very early, I think 1930 cartoon with Mickey as Mickey's dog. And so he was just drawn as a dog and became kind of Mickey's pet over the years. Whereas Goofy just kind of became this man dog, this creature. He's kind of Goofus Canis, I think is what it is. He's not a dog, but he's a canine. So it's kind of like a wolf is not a dog, but it's a canine. Same thing. Goofus Canis, that's what he is. Or he's a mog. He's a man dog.
A mog. I love that. If Pluto could talk, have you thought about what he might sound like?
Only once have I ever given Pluto a voice. It was one of those cartoons where he had a little angel and a little devil giving him ideas on his shoulders. And I think the angel was very, very kind of English and very up here. And the devil was kind of a deep, kind of gravelly voice. Hey, Pluto, you gotta go do this. He talked once more. We actually had a cartoon many years ago where they had the angel and the devil. I didn't voice them, but the devil dog was Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller, the magic group. Eric Idle from Monty Python was the angel dog. So I didn't get to actually add words to Pluto's vocabulary till just a couple of years ago when I got to voice him as the angel and devil.
What is your favorite Goofyism to perform?
Oh, gosh. Well, some of the songs are fun. Anything that's a challenge that takes me out of the realm of what's so comfortable. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, we've done, 5 seasons. We're doing future things we've got in the pipeline now that we'll be doing in the future. And they're aimed at kids, 5 and under and the young kids. Then we have the Mickey Mouse Shorts, which is kind of totally drawn differently. It's kind of like a parallel universe. And so Goofy's a little stupider there. He's a little more country. He's a little bit more empty up-headed. And but they're hilarious scripts, and we get to do things on that series that we couldn't do on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which is more gentle, aimed at the kids. So whatever the aim of the series, little bits and pieces to the character and kind of flesh him out and kind of give the universe a little bit bigger boundary.
Could I impress on you? I know you're not a performing monkey. You're a performing dog, I guess. Could I impress on you to do the Goofy holler or yell for me? Because that's my absolute favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to do that. I thought that they would have me just do it once, get it right, and keep it for all time. Yeah. No, I have to do it every week, it seems like. And so short, medium, and long. So it's usually like, or the really long one.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
My pleasure. Now, The neighbors are probably going, what's going on over there?
Yeah, exactly. Before I wrap up, I want to talk about the convention scene. You said you get to come to these conventions quite often. What's it like meeting fans, and are there any interactions that stand out for you?
Just the fact that when I'm in the booth, it's just a microphone, a table, a script. We aren't looking at anything. It hasn't been animated yet. We don't get a sense of how it plays to an audience. And we don't know how effective it is with an audience and what they think. But at Comic-Cons and where we do panels and get questions, I get that, that feedback that, oh, I love this. I loved when you did this cartoon. I love that. And that's so heartwarming. Or when people come up and say, Goofy really saved my life during a Goof troop and a Goofy movie times, because I identified with that as my dad. I've had people say that over the years, that it really meant so much to them. And one quick story I could tell that really brought that home. Occasionally, we'll talk to kids in hospitals, and someone wants to talk to Mickey or Donald or Goofy and whatever. And there was a woman whose daughter had leukemia, and her daughter was resisting treatment. And so Mickey gets on and says, gosh, when Pluto takes his medicine, he feels really good. Or sure does, And the child didn't really say anything. We got a letter about 3 months later that said, just from talking to Mickey and Goofy, the child's whole attitude changed, and she was willing to take chemotherapy much more willingly and went into remission. And gosh, you see that there is a power with these characters among some people. And when you know that you're doing some good like that and that it can affect people in such a positive way, that makes it all worth it. And it's really nice to hear those stories that these characters are important. They're not just cartoons and silly little stories and stuff. They have real deeper meanings and importance to people.
They really do. Thank you so much for sharing that story. What a beautiful, beautiful story. And I hope you have a great time down there in Melbourne, up in Sydney. So won't get to see you in person, unfortunately. But thanks so much for your time, Bill. Real pleasure.
Well, it's been way too long since I've been in Australia, and it's just been delightful. Been walking around in the nice, cool winter air, and it's break from the 100-degree weather that we've been having.
We need a little bit of sun. Bring some sun with you next time.
All right, will do.
Thanks, Bill.
Could you back up a bit, Mr. Foot? You're out of focus.
Leigh, that was so much fun. How fun was that? Are you a fan of Goofy? Obviously you are.
Oh, absolutely. Who isn't a fan of Goofy? He's an absolute icon. He's one of the originals. And it's so amazing that they evolved him into being this single father and this great relationship with his son, Max. I mean, Mickey and Donald have always been uncles, but you never had that really, really moving relationship, and you could dive deeper. So Goofy was really a trailblazer in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And I just love that even though the Goofy movie came out some 30 years ago, it still resonates with people so beautifully.
Absolutely.
And I just love that Bill Farmer not only was voicing the character back then, but still is and gets to be a part of other cultural movements with that character and just impress upon people just wonderful experiences. And I just loved hearing from him and his career and the impact that he has.
I had an absolute blast talking to Bill Farmer. And don't forget to check out our interview with the iconic voice actor over on YouTube, and hit that subscribe button while you're there, please. It will be live very soon.
You can experience Metro Comic Con 2024 from July 13 to 14 at Melbourne Showgrounds in Victoria.
Head on down.
As always, friends, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for listening.
We'll catch you next time. We are now on YouTube, guys, where you will find our latest celebrity video interviews. Simply search Popcorn Podcast with Leigh and Tim and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single one.